Shalom Israel. Before I start, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Muharaka Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel who will and teach well, to the Akim, and Iwas and Byways and those pushing videos in truth and sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. Now, it's that time of year. We've just had one pagan feast day, which had just passed, known as Christmas. And there's another one coming up shortly known as New Year's, which, our people partake in, and they do so religiously. And I was no different. This is something I used to partake in when I was in the world before I understand this truth. And we know that these are things which are hateful to the Most High, and we shouldn't be partaking in these things. And there's enough information out there for us to find out that these are not of the Most High. But regardless, many of our people still claim to serve God or love God, doing the will of the Most High, and still partake in these feast days, which, we're not meant to be doing. This is a little something. And like I said, this ain't going to be too long anyway, but like I said, many of our people partake in these things which a little search can pull up and show you that it's not of the Most High. Now, this is Christmas. Yeah. What I typed in was pagan Xmas. It says things like kissing under the mistletoe, caroling, wreaths, and even gift giving were all aspects of pagan holidays that were adapted into Christmas celebrations in the early years. Now, giving a gift is not actually a pagan custom. You can give a gift depending why you're giving the gift or the time you're actually giving the gift, which makes it a pagan custom, because one of our feast days that we celebrate is Purim, where we can give gifts to each other, But all these things have been adapted into Christmas, and we know one of the things with Christianity is that it adapts pagan customs to make it more attractable to those who want to partake. That way you don't really have to leave some of the customs that you're used to. Now, this is a little article. It says, these 6 Christmas traditions are actually pagan customs. Now, I'm not going to really go through all 6, but it says here, humans as a species love to take inspiration from different cultures, customs, and traditions. And believe it or not, Christmas is no different. And we should be taking customs and traditions from these other nations. The Bible tells us to learn not the ways of the heathen. It says, if you thought those cozy traditions you knew and loved were just about celebrating Christmas, think again. Things like kissing under a mistletoe, caroling, wreaths, and even gift giving were all aspects of pagan holidays that were adapted into Christmas celebrations in the early years. It says decorating trees, feasting with loved ones, and we can go to Jeremiah chapter 10 to see about decorating trees. It says hanging up socks by the fireplace and drinking yourself silly are no different. They are all a part of pagan history and sacred holidays. In fact, most of the cultural aspects we associate with Christmas are steeped in pagan roots. See pagan traditions that have become associated with Christmas. It says gift giving, the image of Santa Claus, Christmas stockings, Christmas caroling, decking the halls with holly, and decorating trees. And as I mentioned previously, Jeremiah chapter 10. It goes down, it says, the winter solstice celebration. Keep reading, you'll find that Christmas is inspired by traditions from the Romans, Celtics, Norse, Druids, and more, all pagans. It says at the time, all of these different groups shared one big celebration that just happened to fall around Christmas time, the winter solstice. As people living in the northern hemisphere celebrate winter solstice for the shortest day of the year, smack bang in the middle of December. This is why Christmas just so happens to fall around the same time as many pagan holidays. And there's more to that, but get to some of these. It says gift giving and Saturnalia. Not only is December a time to celebrate winter solstice, but between the 17th and 24th of the month, the Romans also celebrated Saturnalia, This was a pagan holiday in honor of the agricultural god Saturn. Romans would spend a week of Saturnalia, much like how we spend Christmas holidays today, feasting, drinking, giving gifts, and being joyful. So these days we fork out lots of money on Christmas gifts, but back then the Romans exchanged small gifts for the sake of good luck. The idea was to give a gift in the hope of bringing in a bountiful harvest the next year. What's the next one? It says Santa's image and Christmas stockings. Our current modern day image of Santa Claus, clad in red fur with a big white beard, was largely developed by Coca-Cola in the 1930s. But the idea of an old man giving gifts to children dates much earlier than that, back to the time of the pagans. It says Father Christmas, otherwise known as St. Nicholas, was a patron saint of children, the poor, and prostitutes. Living around 4th century AD, St. Nicholas was a generous bishop who was known for giving gifts to the poor, sporting a big beard and a long cloak, much like Santa we know and love. But even before St. Nicholas, there was another bearded old man called Odin. It says this deity was worshipped by early Germanic pagan tribes, traditionally portrayed as an old man with a long white beard with an 8-legged horse called Slipner, something like that, who he would ride through the skies just like Santa's reindeer. During the winter, kids would fill their booties with carrots and straw and leave them by the chimney for Sleipnir to feed on. Odin would fly by and reward the children with little presents in their booties, much like we do with Christmas stockings. So you can see where these ideas of Christmas come from, pagan customs, which is incorporated into what we call Christianity. And many churches, you get some churches that don't celebrate Christmas, but in general, this is something that many churches do celebrate and many people that actually go to church. So the next one we've got coming up is New Year's, and that goes back to another false god, and that one's called Janus. It says in ancient Roman religion and myth, Janus is the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. Is usually depicted as having two faces. The mouth of January is named for Janus. According to ancient Roman farmers' almanacs, Juno was mistaken as the tutelary deity of the month of January, but Juno is the tutelary deity of the month of June. Janus presided over the beginning and ending of conflict and hence war and peace. The gates of building in Rome, named after him, not a temple as it's often called, but an open and closed gates at each end, were opened in the time of war and closed to mark the arrival of peace. As a god of transitions, he had functions pertaining to birth and to journeys and exchange, and in his association with Pontinus, a similar arbor and gateway god, he was concerned with traveling, trading, and shipping. And it goes on and on and on. This is an image here of that god Janus, dealing with coming out of the old and into the new. And that's one of the reasons why people make what do they call it now, that thing at the New Year's where they say, I'm not going to do this, I'm looking to do that. I slipped my mind. If it comes back to me, I'll mention it anyway. But like I was saying, these are all down to idolatry, which is something our people have always been accustomed to, and that's always been getting us into problems. Like we're always neglecting what the Most High wants us to do and picking up the customs of these other nations. Now this is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14 and verse 9. It says, for the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto the Most High. So people like to say the Most High loves the sinner but hates the sin. It says the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto the Most High. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. And if we don't come out of these customs, we will be punished with those who created these customs, man. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, causing the creature of the Most High, they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. And to this day, these customs of the Gentiles, their idols, whatever it may be, have been a snare to our people. It says, for the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. Yeah, because there's no life in these other gods. And there's only one power which gives life, and that is Yahweh. It says, for neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. Yeah, the Most High didn't give us idols to serve in the beginning. We decided to go after these ourselves, make ourselves God, or follow gods, make ourselves gods, or follow after gods which other people have created. This is verse 14. It says, for by the vainglory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. Because when Yahushua returns, none of these things won't be kept anymore. You're not going to have Christmas, New Year's Eve, Easter, Valentine's, whatever it is this kingdom puts in place as a snare to our people. And this is Psalms 94, 96 and 4. It says, for the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. And that is one of the issues our people have, a lack of fear for the Most High. It says, for all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Like these gods that we serve, these feast days that we celebrate, these are idols, and they can't do nothing for us other than keep us in a snare and bring the judgment of the Most High upon us. And even going into New Testament, this was one of the things that the Gentiles that Paul went out to, he was speaking about, because you look at the history in Jeremiah, they were worshipping the Queen of Heaven, so on and so forth. You got the Christmas tree, so these are things which our people have become accustomed to. You got the Maccabees, where King Antiochus put an order for our people to take on their customs, and anyone that wouldn't would be put to death. And it's like this captivity, we were forced to take on the customs of these other nations, and now we're telling our people to depart from that, and depart from those customs. They mean no good to us, and they are no good to us. This is 1 Corinthians 10 and 9. It says, what say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything? Like these idols that our people serve, these gods that our people serve, can they do anything for us? Have they ever done anything for us? Like, there's only one power, and that is Yahweh. It says 1 Corinthians 10 and 20, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to the Most High. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. So, those of our people that want to say, oh, well, it's for the children, make excuses to celebrate Christmas, but you're still going to be saying, giving lip service, saying, I love the Lord, I serve the Lord and all this, I've got faith in the Lord. You can't drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You can't serve God and Mammon. And the same with New Year's Day that's coming up. You can't partake in those feast days and still say, you're serving the Lord or you believe in the Lord. But like I said, this is just something which people are able to search up for themselves if they really want to know. Most people don't do these kind of searches because they're quite happy keeping up the customs that they do, and they don't want to be seen or to find out that what they're doing is wrong. They'd rather stay in that ignorance. But just something I want to bring out. Don't celebrate these feast days. We have our own feast days that we have. Leviticus chapter 23 give us the feast days that we should do. When you read the Apocrypha, it shows us other days which we celebrate. Actually, not even just the Apocrypha, in Esther, where we get Purim. But these are days which the Most High delivered us from the hands of our enemies, and we observe those days. Because even Yahushua, Feast of Dedication, where we gained back the temple, from the Romans and dedicated that to the Most High. In Yahushai celebrated that and kept that. So that shows you that these days, outside of Leviticus 23, these days that we celebrate, these are days which we can celebrate. This is John chapter 10, verse 22. It says, and it was at Jerusalem the feast of the dedication, and it was winter, and Yahushua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. So, it says the feast of dedication. Where do we read about the feast of dedication? In the Apocrypha and the Maccabees, showing you that these are things which Yahushua also observed, these triumphs that we had over these other nations. And he's coming back to put an end to all of these things, man. So let's get into that spirit of serving the Most High in spirit and in truth, because that's who the Most High is looking to serve him, man. Those that's going to worship him in spirit and in truth. But hopefully this was edifying to someone. Nothing long, but with that, I'm going to close out. I'm going to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Yahweh Kakadash, Kwam Yasha Allah.